Welcome to Growing Startups, where we talk to growth leaders and marketing professionals about how to drive sustainable growth from the ground up. I'm your host, Evelyn Cools, and I lead marketing for tech startups. I'm excited to share these candid conversations about marketing, culture, collaboration, and everything else that makes startups grow. Carly, I am so happy that you're here. Today's guest is Carly Valancy, and she is the founder of Tether and Reach Out Party, which is all about making networking more fun, more accessible, and actually work for you. So I'm really excited to get into all of that. And you're also the co-founder of a strategic marketing agency called Momentum. You build products, communities, and experiences that help people find their people, which I love. And you're also a new mom, just like me, so I'm sure we'll talk about that at some point here too. But before we get into it, would you mind giving us just a quick overview of things that I haven't maybe touched on yet?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, fabulous intro. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. I think that one of the things that is so important to my work and just the way that work plays an identity in my life is the fact that I started my career as an actor, as a performer. I went to school for musical theater, and when I moved to New York City, I was kind of astounded by the fact that I was a part of this insanely creative industry, right? Like the theater industry is, just full of the most creative people in the world. And yet all of us were operating in such a hierarchy. And being fresh and green in New York City, I realized just how difficult being at the bottom of that hierarchy was. I think that just to add, if there's anything missing from what you shared, I think it's just that being an artist, being a creative thinker, someone that aims to not just think outside of the box, but break the box in all of my work, it has really stemmed from the fact that I came up in this community of artists and still very much consider myself to be an artist. And I think as I have had all kinds of roles at different startups to now, starting my own business, I really denied that artist self and tried to kind of fit back in the box of corporate life and of, working at this high growth startup. And I tried to fit in a lot. And I think what I have realized about becoming a founder and starting my own business and my own ventures is that it is the artist in me that is going to make my business successful. And I've really been trying to embrace that more and more, even over these past few months.
I'm so glad you said that. We have so much in common because I started my career out in the music industry. I also lived in New York. I was doing a lot of live shows, both as a singer-songwriter, but also as an audio engineer. And so I feel like I had a real identity crisis when I decided that that wasn't my forever career. I think I just tied so much of who I was to what I do for work. And I felt like I had to completely abandon that creative side of me to go into this other space. But like you, I feel like now everything's kind of tying back together. And the more you allow those other parts of yourself to show up in your work, that also sets you apart. So I'm glad you said that because it just really resonates with me.
Yeah, it's crazy how I did not know that about you, but I mean that could be a whole a whole podcast in itself.
Absolutely. I feel like we could talk about that forever. I mean, so many things to talk about on that. This podcast is brought to you by Evelyn Cools Marketing. If you're an early stage B2B tech founder who wants marketing to actually work, you're in the right place. As a fractional head of marketing and growth advisor, I help early stage B2B startups take marketing from 0 to 1 by building the foundations, testing different channels, and scaling what works. I'm currently offering a free strategy call where I do an audit of what you've tried with marketing so far and share practical advice that I believe will make the biggest impact on your growth engine. Visit evelyncools.com to book your free strategy call today. Now back to the episode. I think that's really cool. And could you maybe give us a little bit more of insight into then how you transitioned from that performing space to the startup world to then starting your own business? Like, what was that trajectory like?
Totally. Well, first of all, I want to start with the most important thing, which is that every single opportunity that has come my way has been from a product of knowing the right person. And in the beginning, it felt like that was accidental. As I've gone forward in my career, it is now very much on purpose. But essentially, I was auditioning in New York and I decided to challenge myself to reach out to one person every day for 100 days. And I was working at a coffee shop at the time, and in between customers coming in, I was reading this book called Reach Out by Molly Beck, which inspired the idea. It was just one of those moments, there's like life before and life after where you have this moment of clarity and make like a grand decision about your life. And I'm not actually sure if it felt that way in the moment, but looking back it does. And that experiment just completely changed everything for me and helped me realize the power of reaching out to new people, of stepping outside my comfort zone, of asking for what it is that I want, of even understanding what it is that I want, and being brave and curious enough to connect with people that I admire. I think that it is so interesting to me that our lives are literally made up of the people that we know. Like, life is about who you know, probably the most famous trope ever said. And we have so much agency and capacity to connect with the people that we are interested in, curious about, that we admire. And for a myriad of reasons, we just don't. We don't take advantage of the equal opportunity that, we all really have if you have access to the internet. And that's kind of what really changed everything for me. It was just that one aha moment that like life really is about who you know, and I'm going to take that as seriously as possible. And it has opened up doors and opportunities and really meaningful connections that has taken me through a career as a performer to a career in tech in Silicon Valley to starting my own businesses.
That's amazing. I do feel like it's one of those things where in hindsight you realize like when your mindset shifted about something that
Yes,
those are like the most pivotal moments of your life.
totally.
And I mean, I think this idea is relevant for anyone. I mean, anyone who's trying to be successful in their life and in their career, this makes so much sense. But when I look back at my own journey, even getting into startups, I feel like almost every opportunity that I've had has been through my network in some way. So I feel like the startup space is just really about who you know, and founders want to hire people that there's this trust factor built in. So if they hear about this person from another founder or from someone in a group that they're a part of, that's already such a big plus. And then if you're looking for work as well, or you want to break into the startup space, I like what you said about this is like an equal opportunity with LinkedIn. Or I'm curious if there's any other way that you were reaching out to people or would suggest reaching out to people, but you really do just have like these people at your fingertips if you say the right thing, or if you just like try to like make sure you have the guts to actually go and like try to make a connection with someone.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I have been I have been so anti LinkedIn until literally like 3 months ago. So I have
No way.
been reaching out for years without touching LinkedIn. So for those of you who are listening, being like, I have to go on LinkedIn, you don't. But I will say, LinkedIn's awesome when you can kind of like just bite the bullet and get into the right corners of LinkedIn where you actually find genuine people doing cool things. Like, that's the point. But so much of like the masses using that platform, are everything that we hate about networking. It's transactional and fake and performative and just like makes you feel like shit. Am I allowed to curse on this
Yeah,
podcast?
you're allowed.
Cool.
This is an adults podcast, so
Great, great. I almost to prove a point to myself. I was like, let me see what I can do when I remove this platform completely. Now I use it because I genuinely enjoy it, and I think that is actually the key is when you are making a connection with someone, it is pretty clear if you are enjoying it or not. And I'm talking about like from the receiving end, when you read someone's email or DM or whatever it is, it can be pretty clear right away whether that person is genuinely interested or curious about your life, whether they're like just a genuine person altogether, or whether it's like a templated, message that is being sent to like 50 other people and it just feels super transactional. And so I think that the first step to like approaching, how you reach out in general is just like where online do you like enjoy yourself the most? Maybe you're on Substack or Instagram or LinkedIn. Maybe not at all. That's a great opportunity to explore email. I like that's where I did most of my networking for years is just sending cold emails. And it's actually kind of amazing the opportunity that we really do have because when you think about how many people are sending cold emails, it's a pretty small percentage. Out of that percentage, the large amount of those people are like sending pretty bad emails. They're
terrible.
templated. ChatGPT wrote them. They're very transactional. It's all about like, what can this person give to me? When you think about like the super, super small percentage of people who are really taking the time to think about how could I send an email that would make this person's day? It is like, it is so rare. It is so rare. And it actually can be a gift to the person that you are reaching out to because it is so rare that someone might open your email and say, wow, I don't get too many emails like that. It's nice to have that kind of intention. That's really my intention when I'm reaching out is when someone opens my email, I want them to feel like they don't see many like that. And it can be at that point really fun to experiment with like, okay, how do I elicit that reaction in a super genuine and earnest way?
How do you get people's email addresses? I mean, there's so many tools now to like scrape, but you were doing this a while back.
It
Like, what was
was.
your approach?
My approach was if I was reaching out to someone through a huge company, I would try and find like anyone at the company's email address and then use that same like first dot last or whatever it is. And then I would just test it. And sometimes I would get a bounce back. And sometimes I would spend a ton of time trying to email someone and they never received it. But that's kind of like it comes with the territory, you know? That is what developing a networking practice is like sometimes you're going to spend time on something and the person's not going to see it. Sometimes they will see it and you'll be rejected. It's like there are all kinds of things that won't happen when you commit to reaching out to someone in a consistent way, reaching out to people in a consistent way. But by doing it and by getting rejected, ignored, all of these things enough times, you're going to get a lot better at it. You're going to get really good at communicating, which honestly, even if nothing, and even if you didn't have a single positive outcome, that is so worth it. It's incredible how much better you can get at writing, at communicating, and connecting with people. But you are really the more you do it, it's like, the more shots you take, the more likely you are to make one. And you are increasing, I feel like this is such a buzzy phrase now, but you are increasing the surface area for luck that something will happen. It is just only a matter of time. When you connect with the right person at the right time, you can actually literally, change your life and theirs. And how beautiful is that? It's crazy.
It's the most beautiful. I mean, we met on LinkedIn only a couple months ago.
We sure did. We sure did. And thank goodness, good timing. Because before
Very good.
then, I was like bashing LinkedIn.
I mean, to be fair, like I only just started enjoying LinkedIn after like becoming a fractional marketing leader and really thinking about, for one, like my personal brand and how I'm using my LinkedIn to really share the things that I'm passionate about and what I'm good at and how people can work with me. But I've been actually very surprised at how much I've enjoyed it. And I think it's all about like how you show up there. Are you actually like having a good time talking to these people? Like, how are you spending your time on there?
Right, right. I love that.
Okay, so we got like straight into it, which I love, but something I'm gonna take it back, like one step, which is I always ask, and I feel like especially with what you're doing, both being a founder and also just like networking can be very, it can take a lot of energy too, and you're, sometimes getting rejected or you just don't hear anything back. How do you ground yourself? Is there something that you do in the middle of every busy day or like a favorite way to just like decompress, a wellness practice?
My goodness, I have a lot of wellness practice. I think is it's really important, especially as a person who, when I left my last startup, I was extremely burnt out. And I think I realized just how dangerous it can be to push yourself to work super hard without protecting your routines and your nervous system. And so I have a really luscious morning routine that takes about an hour and a half. It's like non-negotiable for me. But then in the middle of the day, I typically will either do like a 10-minute meditation or 10-minute EFT. I've gotten really into EFTs, which is like a tapping practice. It really just helps me just ground myself in the day, and it's helped a lot with my self-confidence, honestly. I think I like over answered your question because it was like it's a lot of wellness routines, but one that I did want to share that is connected to my networking practice is that I have like a little celebration whenever I send an email or a DM, and basically I just take a moment to almost like pat myself on the back. I use this tool that I built called Tether to track the people that I'm reaching out to. And in it, I have this little like celebration routine whenever I press send on an email or a DM that feels risky or scary. I remind myself that that actually is the win. It doesn't matter. We were talking before we pressed record about sending out proposals and how nerve-wracking that can be. And today I sent one out, and I think it was just really important to remember that sometimes we can focus so hard on the outcome when it's actually just the building the muscle of like consistently putting yourself out there, doing the thing, sending that email that makes you like so uncomfortable and afraid, that's like really the win. And so just taking time to celebrate that has been such a huge part of my routine.
I love that so much. And it's something we need to do more frequently, even if you're not, on running your own business, even if you're an employee, especially at a startup. I think it's so easy to accomplish things and then instantly move on to the next thing, or not really look at everything that's going great and just looking at, okay, where are we falling short? So I think that's a great reminder for everyone. Okay, you mentioned Tether, which I'd love to just focus on that a little bit because that's, for one, how I found you. And I'd love for you to just explain a little bit about like why you built this. And I'm also very curious, is this like celebration piece something that's like built in, or is this something that you just do for you?
Yes. Okay. So first of all, before I forget, it's built in. So there's like a little celebration button you
I
click.
need this. I need to be celebrated every day that I reach out to someone.
But I built this because 5 years ago, when I started reaching out in the first place, I realized two things. First of all, there is an insane compounding effect when it comes to this work. It's like, yeah, your life is probably not going to change from one email, but when you do it consistently, and it doesn't have to be every day, it can be twice a week or even once a week, but having a practice similar to a wellness practice, similar to meditation, it's like you never want to do it, but it's good for you. Like you know it's good for you and you always feel better after. That's like exactly how I think about networking. But what I realize is that there is such an incredible compounding effect of doing it often. But in order to take, full advantage of that, you really need to keep track of it somewhere. And so initially, I was using a really gross looking Excel spreadsheet. And then, of course, there are all of these like personal CRM tools, and I've used a bunch of them. And literally for 5 years, I have been like, why doesn't there exist a tool that will help me do all of these things, but that is made for a creative person and that will help me feel like when I am reaching out to someone, I am growing a garden, I am planting seeds. I am like, I want it to feel luscious and fun and like I'm enjoying the process itself. And I just felt like all the tools that existed out there were either ugly, frankly, or just too geared toward like the sales bro that I am not, and too geared toward the transactional nature of the way that so many people approach networking. And so, after thinking about it for so many years, I think, and we can talk a little bit more about this too, but after I had my son, I started building it when I was 3 months postpartum. And it was almost like something kind of shifted in me that, I mean, and literally everything shifted in me, physically, mentally, everything. But it was almost this aha moment again that I sort of was like, what am I doing waiting for someone else to build this thing? And I had such a clear vision for it, what I wanted it to look like and feel like. And I think that having a child has just made me so much more brave and confident in what I'm putting out there into the world, even if it means I completely fail and fall on my face. And it's been such a amazing process even just to get it out there, and it's in its first iteration now, but I personally love it, and I'm just really proud that I did it.
It looks awesome. And just bringing another person into the world and then bringing like your own product into the world, that's a crazy postpartum experience.
Yeah, I had twins this year. No, it was crazy.
I do feel the same way though. I feel a lot more courageous, unapologetic. I feel like things are just going to work out. Like I'm more connected to my intuition. And even though we have like way less time, I do feel like I'm weeding out a lot of the stuff that wasn't like high impact work that I was doing before. So it really like clarifies, I think, what you want in your life.
Yes, absolutely agree. One of the things that I think has been such a crazy learning for me about this process, and we just celebrated my son's first birthday, which was amazing and emotional and all the things. But I think that being a parent allows you the opportunity to start over in a way or begin again from the place of not knowing anything at all. Like, there's something so beautiful about like taking your child home and being like, I don't know anything at all. And I think that has been such a helpful way for me to approach growing my business is just the ability to remove any kind of ego or any kind of like premonition or experience that I have, which those things are all great too. But I think I really just started finding success when I released, the need to know everything. And how beautiful is that?
So crazy. I'm sure this is, I mean, you're a founder. I'm sure this is a very similar experience, even though it, sounds very different. But when you're building your own business and you're hiring people for the first time, and maybe you have a co-founder and you're figuring out how to work with them, and there's just so many unknowns. And I like what you said about taking your ego out because I think that's such a huge piece of it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's like the sort of sick trade-off of being a founder, right? It's like you get to have the experience and privilege of doing it yourself and like building something that is based on an idea in your head and making that come to life. And there's so much magic around that, but it is also is so challenging and scary, and in comes so much like self-doubt and yeah, you're doing everything for the first time constantly. It's a lot of energy.
It is a lot of energy. Something that I want to kind of come back to that, you've said this in the past in conversations is talking about traditional networking just feels a certain way for different people. Like I always thought networking was not really for me in the traditional sense of the word, at least super early in my career. I've definitely kind of developed into where I feel like I fit and I have a lot more confidence in who I am and what I offer. But I think it can feel really daunting. And your approach is just very different. It feels a lot more freeing. And even the fact that you're thinking about, like, how do I make this aesthetically pleasing so that I actually enjoy doing this? Like, I love that. So I'd love to just hear from you, how you feel about that. Like, have you kind of built this in like rejection of traditional networking? And what, I guess, tips do you have for people who are trying to like figure out how to network without it feeling icky?
Oh, completely. Yeah, and complete rejection of traditional networking. I think that this is going back to what I shared earlier of just like how so much of my work is in not just thinking outside the box, but like breaking the box. And I think that with traditional networking, there are just so many rules that have been systemically created for not, a lot of people. Like it is so, traditional. Like people have been networking for hundreds and hundreds of years. And yet so much of our world has changed. But truthfully, like still I see so much content and so many products that really are built for white men. And I think that it is so easy for so many people to just turn away from networking because it was not made for people like you and me. And why should we have to participate in these, in all of these rules and these structures? And so I think it's been just like an extreme joy of mine to be able to play with all of these rules and explore what doing the total opposite could look like. And, if the point of networking is to make connections that open doors in our lives, then like, why are we focusing on the doors and why are we not focusing on the connection? Like that's like the long game, and that's the real compounding effect, is not getting this one thing this one time. It's like developing a relationship with someone so that years and years down the line, who you can't even comprehend what might happen because you have created a genuine connection with someone. And so a good example of that, just to give you something like super tactical, is a lot of like the rules around networking are like, don't apologize, take out the like justs and sorries and make yourself sound competent and professional. And I'm like, what if we completely rejected that? And like, what if I made my whole email like lowercase? Or what if I apologized in a DM to someone because I actually was like sorry? Or what if I just admitted how nervous I was to connect with someone instead of pretending like I wasn't? And it has been kind of amazing to see the walls that we all have up, like those can come down so easily when you're actually just honest in communicating with someone. And so a great example of that is like I reached out to someone recently and I was like genuinely sweating when I was typing the email. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm reaching out to this person. That seems crazy. It was so hard for me to figure out like, how do I even start this message? And after like a couple minutes of overthinking it, I just said like, I am actually sweating right now because I cannot think of how to start this message because you are so interesting and inspiring to me. And truthfully, I feel like I have no right to be reaching out to you. And first of all, that was a great way to just get me into like saying what I wanted to say. So I did give myself the option to like delete that part after, but it just felt really honest and I kept it in. And the person responded and we ended up chatting. And it was just like, I think it was actually that part that made the person I sent it to open the email and say, wow, I don't get many emails like this. And it's refreshing. It's refreshing, to be honest, which is the most unoriginal thing I've ever said this whole time.
I would love if I got an email like that. Like,
Right?
I would instantly, people are looking at their emails. That's not the reason that they don't respond. You know, it's not that it's like so far on their list that it takes them weeks to respond. Like, it's the content of it that really matters. And crazy, people connect with people. Like, that's it, right? Like, we all have these feelings.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think it's just such a great way to reframe it because I do feel like even on LinkedIn, we're always trying to show up in a way that just feels the most professional and like we know what we're talking about. But in the end, like if you're talking to someone at an event and you have commonalities that you share or you're vulnerable about something, those are the connections that are going to last. And it doesn't really matter who's like further along in their career or whatever, like you connect as people. And it can be easy to like not prioritize that, especially online. I feel like it's so easy to like leave out the majority of your story or like your body language and how you're actually feeling. So I am going to take some like advice from that because I need to start my emails off in similar ways.
Really, even as an experiment, it's just fun to try. What if I tried it one time? What would it feel like? You'd be surprised. It's
What
fun.
are some of the craziest things that have come out of networking for you? Not to put you on the spot, but if there's anything that comes to mind.
I mean, I think the craziest things that have happened are not actually that crazy, but the crazy thing about it is the amount of time that it's happening. Like that I have had some pretty insane experiences that have come together like relatively quickly that I would have thought, oh, that maybe I could have done that, but it would have taken 5 more years. A good example is the a role that I got at a really awesome like high growth startup was from a cold email. I actually sent a Loom video along with my resume and my email, and I had no business getting that role. Like I was completely underqualified, and I actually think they knew it, But I got the role because of like very specific experience that I had had and just like the person that I am. I think they were just looking for someone like me on their team. It was a small team. That happened literally from sending one email. Like I think 2 weeks after sending the email, I was flying to San Francisco to like start, which is crazy. And then I performed at Lincoln Center when I was still performing through reaching out to someone that I met on the subway. What's another one? I'm teaching a workshop at Harvard next month through a reach out, and that seems crazy. There's just like an endless amount of stories that I feel like when you actually look at it, you're like, oh, these are cool, but like relatively normal, things that can happen over the span of a career, but typically they don't happen in like a month or two.
Okay, super cool. I'd love to, for one, hear more about like what course you're teaching at Harvard, but then I also really like your first example because I think what can feel daunting is that you need this like massive network of people already to take advantage of like this new type of networking that you're talking about. But what you're saying is like, I sent out a cold email and I just added more of my personality because I recorded a Loom video so they could really see who I am. And that's a completely like easy way for people to start with this as well. It doesn't have to be this like crazy thing where you're adding 50 to 100 connections a month on your LinkedIn. It can be like very intentional, just showing up more authentically.
Yeah, it's actually, I think that there's a really cool story that didn't happen to me, but someone told me that the craziest, scary email they ever sent was that they sent an email to a founder of a company that they really admired, and they were pretty early in their career at this time, and they said, I really admire your company for XYZ reasons. It was very specific and generous email. At the end, the like big ask was, I don't think I'm ready yet, but one day I would love to work at your company. And it's like, that's so the opposite of traditional networking advice, which is to come off as more experienced than you are and to like undercut yourself, I think is actually kind of like genius, because it's just like you open that email and you're like, what? I don't get emails like this very often. I actually experimented with this. I had reached out to a podcast host that is like amazing, huge podcast. It would not make sense for me to be on this podcast. Let's just say Michelle Obama had been a previous guest. And I reached out just to say, really admire your work. I'm a listener and I'm not ready yet, but one day I would love to speak on your podcast. And it was such a cool way to try and plant a seed for my future self, because you really never know. And I think that's what like my way of doing this work is all about, is like, what if you did like the opposite?
I'm getting so many ideas. Like, I just want to spend my evening writing emails like this
I think
now.
you should join the
So
reach
cool.
out party. That's what I think you should do.
Let's talk about this part next. I have like two more things that I really wanted to talk about,
Okay, okay,
but
okay.
since we're now like very organically going into the reach out party, let's talk about it. What is it? Who's it for? When's it starting? All of the things.
Yes. The reach out party is my networking mastermind for people who hate networking or who really want to change their relationship to networking forever. If you've gotten this far in listening to this, it's probably for you. But yeah, it's really for people who are far enough along in their careers where they have experience and they have a network, and they're at this inflection point where something's shifting, maybe not even externally yet, but something's shifting inside where you're thinking, okay, like what I really want to be intentional about the next 5, 10, 20 years in my career and in my life. All of the best things in life happen from the connections and relationships that you have and connections that you make. And so the reach out party, which I run twice a year, as you're listening to this, there's like a cohort coming up, but then the next one won't be until fall of 2026. But yeah, it's essentially doing something which is traditionally done solo networking, right? It happens, especially digital networking, happens behind your own computer and in your own head, and bringing together an incredible group, a small group of people who can really inspire each other. And the whole goal of Reach Out Party is to just bring yourself to the next level. And we do that by figuring out how we find our people, who they are, what do we want to say to them, how do we keep track of this practice. It's amazing, and I'm so excited.
This is epic. I will include like the where to go in the description so that if people are interested, they can get more information. The last thing I wanted to talk about is something that you recently shared on your LinkedIn, which is that you hosted a birthday party for your child turning 1, and you got all these insane sponsors for it. And I feel like this really ties back to, like, I'm sure networking was involved in this. And I just want to hear about it because, like, I don't think I could pull it off, honestly.
You
But
definitely could. You definitely could. It actually wasn't that. Like, it was more work when people said yes. I was like, ooh, I gotta, like I gotta organize these logistics. But one of like the main core beliefs of a networking practice and developing what that means is that it can't just be for professional gain. I think having a personal goal attached to your networking practice not only opens your eyes to like random and cool possibilities that you could use networking for, but it also keeps the practice fun, and it keeps you going on the days where you don't want to, because there are a lot of days where you don't want to. And so my personal goal for my networking practice is to create interesting and cool experiences for my family. And so when we started thinking and planning my son's first birthday party, the theme is Formula One. I was like, oh, we should have sponsors because the real Formula One has sponsors. And as I started to I said it as a joke, but as I started to think about it, I was like, it would be really cool to reach out to the businesses and brands that have gotten us through this first year. Because if you're a parent listening to this, like, I don't know if I would have survived without the baby Bressa. Like there are so many things out there that when I tell my grandma about all the stuff that we have for Jonah, she's like, "Oh, we didn't," it's like the diapers, there's so many things that have saved my life this year. And not only just for the baby, but for me postpartum, going through the most massive transition hormonal insanity of my life. It's like these brands don't get enough credit for the way that they improve the lives of parents, especially first time parents. And so I was like, this would be a cool outcome, but the purpose of it was really just to share gratitude with these brands that I have leaned on so much in this first year of motherhood. And so many incredible people said yes. And I mean, there were prizes and raffles, and like it was honestly like ridiculous and hilarious, but so memorable. And I think it's just a perfect example of the idea that like what you pay attention to opens up, like most people would never consider doing something like this because networking is not part of their personal life. Networking is reserved for professional life. I need a job, I need a mentor, I need a client. And there are so many opportunities for us to make connections that impact our personal goals and personal lives in such a unique and cool way. And so I can't believe still that that was a thing and happened, but so fun. And ultimately, I did make some really cool connections at brands that I happen to love. And you just never know. You just never know.
You never know. I think this is also just such an inspiring story for a lot of what we talk about on this podcast is marketing. And I think we have this like idea of what's possible in life in general, but also in work. And did you say like breaking the box? Is that what you do? Because like that's really what this feels like is you have this idea around like what's possible. And as someone from Belgium, we are very much not like this. So,
This is a very like American way of doing things. I've had
which
a
I
lot of
love.
I've had a lot of people from Australia and the UK join the Reach Out Party, and they're like, whew, okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do this, but this is super American. But it works for them too. It really does.
I think it's great. It's one of the reasons I live here and one of the reasons I wanted to be here because it's that like anything is possible. Just try it and see. Like the worst that can happen is like someone says no. That's a very American way of thinking. And I think it's also why so many startups want to come to the US, why so many startups like thrive in this type of mindset. So I feel like this all really ties back to also that just like mindset, like anything is possible. You just gotta try it. Like don't box yourself in.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think that that is exactly why, I mean, Reach Out Party, even for me as like a facilitator of the space, I get so excited about it because the group of people always has such an influence on like what we do, like a hackathon at the end, and just come up with like what are all of the ways that we can really do this differently. And it is amazing to see the outcomes and the approaches that the most interesting and creative people among us can come up with when there's like a space to do it. And so, yeah, it's exciting. And I never really wanted to be like the networking person. Like, I've been doing this for a long time. And it's honestly pretty recently that I've been more vocal and more visible about sharing this because I always was just like, ugh, I don't want to be the voice of like, expertise on this subject. It's like, it's boring and weird. And I think embracing this like creative side of myself and this artist in me is like, no, it doesn't have to, it can be anything I want it to be. And, at the heart of it, it really is about just creating relationships in the most unique and earnest ways we can.
You just can't like contain. If you have like something you're supposed to do, a purpose, it's just, it has to come out like, and you're the perfect person to do it.
It has to come out.
Okay, very last question. What is something that you're excited about in both your personal and your professional life right now?
Hmm. Okay, I'll start with my personal life, which after my son's birthday party, that was consuming a lot of my like create the cool experiences for my family goal. And so now I'm on to the next one, which is we have this vision of living in Spain for 3 months in the fall while our baby is still a baby and not necessarily like tied to school. And I think it's just life starting to get really real after, this year potentially. And so we are kind of taking this year to like just embrace the uncertainty and instability in some ways and do and create cool experiences. And so moving to Spain is comes with a lot of like I want to meet people there and know people and I want to know where to go and I need to find childcare and most of it is like logistics, but it is something that I'm really excited about. It's a challenge to think about how can I use this work to enhance the experience that we will have there and prepare myself to do really fun things with my family there. So I'm really excited for that. Professionally, I will say I am really excited for this workshop at Harvard. It feels just incredibly affirming and gratifying that someone like me could do something like that. And I think we're always in our own heads about, where the bar is for success for us. And it has given me so much excitement and confidence to just continue to raise the bar. And I just think it's going to be such an exciting time, and it feels like a big milestone for me. So I've been preparing for it, creating slides, and just like I'm so excited.
It's huge. What's the topic?
It's called,
Networking?
yeah, can you imagine? It's like on something completely different. No, it's called Connecting with People Who Can Open Doors.
Amazing topic. I love that so much. Well, if people want to connect with you and open another door, what's the best place to do that?
Yeah, well, now I'm on LinkedIn and I like it, so I guess you can find me there. I write on Substack and I really like it, so find me there. And then I write a Substack called A Good Omen. And then I'm just Carly Valancy on everything. You can find my website, carlyvalancy.com, which also has more info about Tether and Reach Out Party. And then if you separately just want to visit Reach Out Party, it's just reachoutparty.com. But yeah, I'm pretty easy to find. I think it's like kind of my whole, I gotta be.
We all gotta be.
I all
Well,
gotta be.
Carly, it was so nice to talk to you. I feel like I had already like so much inspiration and so many thoughts just from this conversation. So I'm sure people listening are going to feel the same way. And we'll definitely, all keep an eye out for Reach Out Party and just get our network on?
Totally, totally. And I'm so excited to hear like some of your reflections and experiments. And if there's anything from this conversation that if you're listening, you're like gonna try out, please tell me. I love hearing about it. And yeah, if nothing else, I hope this conversation inspires you to send just one scary email.
Amazing place to end. Thank you so much, Carly.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Growing Startups. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd love for you to give us a rating so more people can find the show. So happy you're here, and see you in the next one.